Good morning and welcome to Money Truth Moments with our very own Money Whisperer, Judy Kopenbarger. How are you, Judy?
I'm awesome. Good to see you, Carlos. Happy Tuesday and good morning to you.
Good morning, folks. If you're just joining us now, please follow Judy at judykopenbarger.com. We'll talk about her website and additional resources later on in the show. So grab your cup of coffee and join us this morning. And we have a great show for you as we are doing the year in review from 2021. So what do you say we get started, Judy?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. So there was a lot of great topics that we covered throughout the year. There was definitely a lot of great conversations, a lot of great questions from folks that chimed in. One of them that stood out, because we did talk about this even towards the end of the year, was the Kopenbarger method of strategic planning. Folks are still talking about that. Some of them understood our show, some of them watched the replay, but I would love for you to kind of revisit that a little bit. So our new audience can take a look at that as well too.
Yeah, it was so neat to see the support that came for that information, and then just, kind of the feedback that we got from that. So it's pretty simple. A, B, C, D, E. It's assess, balance, connect, deliver, and evaluate. Right? So should I go through those? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be great for folks that are just joining us for the first time to know what they're talking about, and they can always watch the replay as well too.
Absolutely. So this is just the plan that works. Kopenbarger method is just a basic plan. So you assess. So the first thing is you look around and you say, okay, financially, it could be any area of life. But if it's financial, it's like, what's missing? Do I have insurance that's missing? Are there benefits of work that I should be looking into? Is there something with my will or my trust I need to update or begin? What about my investments? Are they doing what they're supposed to do? Am I ready for retirement? Am I going to achieve my goals? So you just kind of look around and say, let's just assess, where am I right now? And then B is balance. And so you just balance what you'd like to have happen, the outcome you'd like to have, but balance it with what you can afford time-wise and financially. Because of course we'd all like to, have a big house on top of the hill right now, and a red car that goes really fast, and the dream job, and join the cruise of the month club. I mean, we want everything. So how do we do what we need and what we need for planning in the context of what we can afford? So it's just balancing all of that. And then C is connect. So that's actually connecting what you want to have done with who can help you. Finding maybe if it's a benefit at work or a retirement plan at work or insurance program or something like that, you talk to HR or you talk to the payroll department, somebody who can help connect you with the outcome that you're looking for. Maybe you need to hire an attorney to help you with a trust or a will. Maybe you need an insurance professional to help you with some of your insurances. So it's just a matter of getting the right connection to get it done. And the D is deliver, make it happen. So if you need benefits at work, sign up. If you need to be contributing to your IRA every month or every quarter, sign up, get that done. And then E is evaluate. That's just after you implement whatever you're implementing, you look back over and you say, did I get everything done that needed to get done? Is there any unfinished business? Is there someone I need to talk to? Is there some implementation that I need to finish? Or am I totally on track? And if you're totally on track, you've evaluated and you've finished the process. So now you can go back to the beginning, go back to the assessment again and say, hey, let's assess, where am I now? And that you can do quarterly or even annually.
Awesome. And I appreciate you sharing that, folks. And again, if you're just joining us for the first time, welcome to the show. We're doing a year in review, and make sure that you do follow Judy at judykopenbarger.com. She's got her social media links and all that fun stuff there as well too. So we just got done talking about the Kopenbarger method of strategic planning. There was also something you said that when we're looking at trying to find a professional, right? Whether they're going to help us to do our finances, whether they're going to do our living trust. And this is another one that's come up over the years. Folks that think it's either too late to do it or I'll get around to it. I was one of those folks at one time. Well, I'll get around to it till, when is I'll get around to it going to get done, right?
Yeah.
You talked about something very powerful, and it was the 4-H method of choosing a professional. Tell the folks about that.
Yeah, when you're going to hire somebody or you're going to add someone to your bench, to your team, you really need to you don't need to, but I would suggest that you consider making sure that perfect alignment is there. So if you've ever had the experience where you hire somebody and they're helping you and it's just like, ugh, it's like pulling teeth to deal with them. You roll your eyes, it's like, shoot, they're just not a really good fit. So how do you find the ideal fit? And I think it comes down to the 4 H's: the head, the heart, the hands, and the how. So the head, if you're hiring, let's say, for example, you need someone to help you with your, portfolio in your investments and retirement programs and things like that. So you want someone that has the book knowledge, right? Someone who went to school, they have the credentials, they have the experience, they know what to do. They know how it works. That's the head part. Then, and that's usually what we look for, right? When we're going to hire a professional, I want to make sure they went to the right school, they have the right size firm, they have the experience to know what to do. But beyond that, not everybody that knows what to do is going to be a good fit for you. Beyond that, you want to look for this alignment. So I think you have to look at the next H, which is heart. So the heart is that alignment where they get you. They understand what you're trying to do. They understand your family. They know what your goals are. Maybe there's an alignment with values. You love dogs, they love dogs, right? You love kids, they love kids. You love philanthropy. They love making a difference in the world. So when you find this alignment of the heart, I think that's really the big one, and often is something that's overlooked. So then you look to the hands, and the hands is the way things are implemented. Is their firm in the right geographical location? Is it the right size for you? Do they have the capacity, the bandwidth to handle what you need handled? Do they like to meet virtually? Do you prefer nose to nose meetings, right? So all of those things is like the hands. And then the how. The how is the delivery method. So if you like to have things come in the mail rather than online, if you like things virtual rather than paper, that's going to be part of the how. Are they responsive to you? When you call, do they pick up the phone, or do they have the virtual phone answering system, that drives you nuts? Press 4, press 5, you're right. So that's all the how. And so it might not make a difference to you to have a virtual answering service, but you might really want to have someone pick up and say, hello, Judy, it's you. I'm so glad that you called. So that's the 4 H's: the head, the heart, the hands, and the how. And when you have all those lined up and there's pretty much a good fit with all of those, it's probably a relationship that's going to work for you.
Well, thanks, Judy. I appreciate you covering the 4-H method again. I think a big one also that came up last year too, it's always about his and hers, right? His and her money. That's a big one too. And that came up, that stirred a lot of conversation. That stirred actually feelings for some folks as well too. It's like, never really thought about me, hers and mine, and in that kind of scenario as well too. But take us back a little bit. Talk about the his and her. I don't know if we want to call it issue or problem or solution, whatever it is, but it's his and her money. Always seems to be a very touchy subject for a lot of folks.
It is definitely touchy. And at our house, we figured it out. We've been married almost 36 years and we figured it out. So the way it works is what's mine is mine. What's his is mine, and what's ours is mine. And so everybody just gets along just fine. Now that might not work in every household, and it might not be exactly true, but it is a really tricky subject, especially folks that are getting married later in life, where they've already got their own wealth going, they've already got their own way of handling money, and now they're trying to blend that with somebody else with totally different ideas. Maybe ideas that work, but you can't do both in the same household, right? Because they're different methods. So the question becomes, who should handle it? Should the husband handle the money? Should the wife handle the money? How do we work this out? Should we have like a joint account where we both dump money in there every month, and then we just do our things together, but we have our own money outside? And all of these things work. And I've had clients over the years that do all of these methods. Sometimes you'll do one method for a while and then switch it up. But I say, really, it's just like a business. You hire people to get them in the right seats on the bus, right? Where they're all really at peak optimal value, right? They're all working in their strengths. And I think in a marriage, if you treat the finances kind of like a business, it's like, well, what are you good at? Oh, well, what am I good at? Right. So you might have one spouse that's really good at handling people. They're patient, waiting on the phone on hold, dealing with, the the bankers and the escrow people and dealing with even the utilities. You want to do something, change up your cable or your phone services, and you're on hold forever trying to deal with those people. So one of the spouses might be way better at those kind of activities, financial activities, making sure that everything gets done on time and you don't miss your DMV appointment and have an expired license in your wallet. And maybe the other spouse is better at like the accounting part, keeping track of the receipts and keeping track of the expenses and the contributions and things like that for your tax return. Maybe they're better at the money part or the numbers part in dealing with your accountant. So I think if you just look at the strengths that you have and just assess those and divvy out the work, that might be a great way to go. Now, with that being said, I have had clients where the husband did the money the whole time and they're late in life. Maybe he's even passed away late in life, right? Or maybe the wife did it the whole time. And whatever works, works at your house. The one caveat, that one concern that you might want to consider is if one person's doing it all and they know where everything is and what the passwords are and how to access it and where the money is and all that, and the other one doesn't know, if something happens, if there's a death or incapacity, that can really be a tough time for their surviving spouse. So it's something to think about. It's fine to have one person doing all of that part of your life, but just make sure that it is accessible to the other one. Somebody knows, where the bodies are buried. Somebody knows where the keys are to that drawer that has all the stuff in it, or the safety deposit key or the passwords, right? So I think that's probably the downside of one person handling it all. But I've seen in young couples kind of a division of financial work, and that seems to work out really well.
Yeah. And again, it's also something that you don't really think about until you're kind of in the situation, and sometimes it can create good things. Sometimes it creates more friction, unnecessary friction sometimes, and I think it's something that you brought up that I thought was also very valuable. And folks, I really appreciated you talking about it as well too. So if you're just joining us, thanks for being here today. We are doing the year-end review for 2021. I'm here with Judy Kopenbarger, and I'm going to take a moment now to talk about Judy's website, judykopenbarger.com. If you're not following her, please do so. All of our social media platforms are on there. A lot of great resources that I want Judy to share with you guys what's available on her site.
Yeah, everything, all things financial. There's articles on there, and we've got all kinds of great videos, short videos to help you understand some of the basic concepts when it comes to finances. There's also access on the Kopenbarger, judykopenbarger.com website that will give you direct access into the Money, Truth, and Life online mastery program. And that is so cool. You got to go. You got to go. So we've created in all 5 pillars of finance courses for all of them. There's a course on taxation, a course on investments. There's a course on insurances, a course on legacy and legal planning. So there's courses there, and you can take one class or all of them if you want in each area. So that's all there for you. It's free. Go ahead and sign in there and learn what you can. And the idea is not to become a master at all these things. The idea is to know enough to know what you didn't know before, right? So you can navigate better. So you know what questions to ask, and you can check in with what you're doing and what's possible for what you could be doing, and just go, that assessment we talked about in the ABCDEs, right? So do I have what I need? Am I optimized? Am I paying more taxes than I should? All of those things. So that's all right there on judykopenbarger.com. Come on over.
Great. And take your time, folks. I mean, there is a lot of information. There's a lot of great resources. And again, it's free. All you have to do is just take the time to watch some of these videos, take the time to read some of the articles, and you can find a lot of additional wisdom that we have shared throughout the course of the year in the show as well too. So, we're just at the beginning of the year. Spring's around the corner. Most folks decide that they want to get married in springtime. And I mean, we did cover a lot of topics. I mean, we just did the his and her money pre-planning for that. But if for the youngsters out there, not so much the youngster, but at any age, what are some things that we should be planning for marriage? Whether it's our first one, a learned lesson from a previous one, or something along those lines as well.
Wow. Well, I think you got to keep the communication open. I think if you come to a mindset that is collaborative, cooperative, instead of I'm going to do it better than you or tell you how to do it, and and that could be either spouse. It's not always just the guy or just the lady. So, um, what do we have as resources? How do we want to do this? Put some time into planning how we want things to go. What outcome do we have in mind? Let's get our goals in common. You've had your goals, I've had my goals. Now we're going to have common goals. Maybe we're going to get a house, or we're going to upgrade our house, or get a cabin in the woods, a second home. Maybe we're going to have so many vacations every year. Maybe we want to do some charitable work or philanthropic work. Maybe we want to have, a whole bunch of kids. What are the goals that we have together? And financially, how can we align to achieve those? I think those are important conversations to have. And I think just with the wisdom of the years, I've worked with a couple of couples over the over the years, a couple thousands of them probably. But I think what really works for couples that have marital harmony around their finances is that they keep talking, keep the conversation open. What you do right now in 5 years might need to be fine-tuned, and it's a moving, breathing thing. So keep the conversations open. If something's not working, talk about it. If something could be optimized, bring it up. And just keep the conversation open. And remember, you're on the same team. It doesn't have to be adversarial. I think those kind of ideas will help serve any young couple well.
Yeah, and I love that marital harmony. That should be a theme of as you're preparing for marriage, what your ultimate goal is to always create that marital harmony. And I think I'm really glad that you brought that up, which actually kind of leads us to another great topic that we had last year. It was definitely about planning, right? Whether you were going to get married, whether you're just starting out in college, but something that people tend to forget a lot that's really crucial and important is estate planning, right? When to create a trust, when to create a will, and what's the difference between both of them? Should I have one or the other, or one, period. And I think that
Mhm.
was a great topic that we talked about. It created a lot of conversation, and a lot of folks really got off their chair and went out and finally took care of it. So talk a little bit about that planning, especially the youngsters getting out into the real world, and as you're again planning for marriage as well too.
Yeah. So thinking about, merging your lives together, things like that. Some things that come up that maybe weren't on the radar for you before would be things like life insurance. And it's hard to think about that when you're in your 20s or even 30s. It's like, why would I think about life insurance? Well, because it's much more accessible when you're younger than when you're older, much more cost effective when you're younger. And you can get long term insurance and pay a very low premium for your whole lifetime if you do it early enough. And do it while you're healthy, right? While the cost is low and you're insurable. So life insurance is one thing, hard to think about, but probably should be on the radar. Another thing is your will or trust. Now, if you have children, or if you're marrying into being a parent, if you own property, those are usually triggers for people to think about having a trust rather than a will. And the reason is there's enough at stake, there's enough assets there, and guardianship issues there, that you'd probably prefer not to have the court supervision if you don't need it. Like if you have people that could just, carry on for you, look after you if you're here, but unaware. Or when you pass away, make sure that everything that you have goes to the people or the causes that you want them to go to. That can be done in a trust. And so most people, it's cost effective by the time you figure what you'd pay in court, going through a probate process to avoid probate, and create a trust when you own a property. And for the most part, I would say people that have minor children, they're probably way better off naming the people that they want to handle the guardianship for their children, like their care and then their finances, like guardian of the estate for them, rather than having the court decide. We don't want people fighting over the kids because you had a lot of money, right? We want them to go to the home. Heaven forbid something should happen. We want them to go where you would choose, not where the court would choose or where some loudmouth would choose. And those are very sensitive topics, very difficult to deal with in the moment. But when you are thinking about getting married, putting all this in place, you can plan how you want that outcome to go. If all these contingencies in life happen, and they will, we just don't know which ones and in what order, right? So when those things happen, what can we do to make sure that our wishes are carried out, not somebody else's? So I'd say life insurance, will and trust, I talked a little bit about the mindset and the collaboration of just having the conversations open. Those are probably like the big ones that I see in my practice.
Yeah, excellent. And that also ties into what we talked a little bit earlier about the 4-H method when you're choosing someone in your professional. And also, I encourage you guys to take a look at some of our previous episodes where we did talk about the 4-H method, because it's a great method you share, but not only does it apply to professionals, but it also applies to everyday life, right? If you look at it from that. So I am very grateful that you share that with folks, and they're taking advantage of that as well too. So we talked about more of the personal aspect of things, but we also have covered quite a bit of in our journey regarding businesses, right? So, for example, those that are, you may have lost your job this last year. You may have decided that, while you were at home, you thought of these great ideas and you want to launch this new business or this great adventure you want to get into. And so those are some of the things that you discuss as business owners. What are some essential things if you're trying to launch a business, especially now in this new year?
Well, launching a business, you just want to have the right chassis, right? You want to have the right entity. So it could be, if it's a small business, if you're buying one, you might already have a corporate structure. But if you're starting a business, do I want to do just a DBA, like a C form on my tax? It's just kind of a side thing I'm launching. It's not going to make more than 6 figures this year, kind of thing. Or do we need to incorporate for some certain reason? And so there's lots of reasons to do it. One is for simplicity of accounting. It does help avoid audits if it's a legitimate business, if you incorporate. Some people do it just for that protection. They just are scared of the IRS. Sam's going to come and get them. Uncle Sam, right? Let's see. Protection, corporate protection for liability. For some people, they'll set up an LLC for their properties or their business to make sure that there's a difference between their personal, like they protect their home, if there's any liability in their business. And so it can kind of put a line between their personal things and their corporate things for liability purposes. Now, insurance can also help with that, but getting the right entity can really make a big difference. So protection, tax structure makes a big difference. How you incorporate or how you set up your business. Maybe it's a partnership. So lots of ways that you can build a business. We talk about that a lot, actually, in the Money, Truth, and Life online mastery program. What are the different entities? How do I choose them? If I have a business that I've had a couple of years and it's pretty successful, how do I know when to incorporate? When is it cost effective to do so? And when is the hassle worth it? Usually it's not right at the beginning for a startup business. So you want to kind of, if you're new to this, you want to kind of look at your entities, what are your options? When should I choose one over another? And there's a lot of great information there that'll help walk you through that. And then vet the right professional to help you get that done.
Excellent. And folks, again, thank you for joining us. If you didn't catch the beginning of the show, please do so. We are talking about the year-end review for 2021. And a lot of great topics that we covered have been the Copenhagen method of strategic planning. We went through the 4-H method for choosing a professional. Also, planning for marriage, his and her money. So you have to watch the beginning of the show to hear a little bit about that. We did estate planning, and we just covered business owners as well, what they're looking at. Obviously, if we're starting a business, if we've worked all of our lives, something, even if you're just starting out as well, a key thing that people also forget is the retirement planning options. And was another great topic that we discussed. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So if you have a business, you can set up a 401k, a 403b, depending on the kind of business that you have. You can have, pension programs. You can have deferred compensation programs. There are so many neat things that you can set up if you're the owner. And if you're not the owner, go to the owner and say, hey, what options do you have? And if we don't have any, get payroll on the job, right? Let's set up some things, because it's so tax efficient to do employer programs for retirement and long-term delayed, earnings. So it's huge. It's huge tax play. And if you don't have something available at work, or if you've already kept it out, maxed it out, look at what you can do individually. There's the individual retirement accounts, IRAs. You always hear people talking about IRAs and Roth IRAs, which is basically an upside down, tax structure for an IRA. There's so many things that you can do, but just find one and do something. Even if you're in your 20s and you're thinking retirement's like 100 years away, start. I mean, time is your friend. And you might be at the other end and you're like, well, like I'm in my late 50s and I haven't done anything yet. Why bother now? Because it makes sense. Uncle Sam's going to help pay for
Oh, you're
that
right.
savings, right? So do it, do something, no matter where you are in life, do something. Retirement programs are awesome. Okay.
Thanks for that, Judy. And also, we did talk about the year-end review, but I also want to make sure that we cover just quickly some tax tips that we can share with our folks, now that tax season is almost here as well.
Yeah, I've had a lot of conversations with people just in the last few weeks. People that have done their own taxes, they'll go get the software TurboTax or something like that. With all the new law changes, I think for some of the folks doing that at home, especially we've had the PPP, we've had all these, people employed getting unemployment. Now they're back on the job. There are so many credits that have changed, tax rules that have changed with what's happened in Washington, with it kind of changing of the guards, there's new rules. And I think any year, out of any years, this is the one where I would want to choose to work with a CPA. And I wouldn't just go to an enrolled agent. I wouldn't go to just somebody who, on the side does tax returns. I would go to someone who really is trained to know what the new laws are and all the credits and all the things that can benefit you. It's kind of like you don't want to be. I have an assistant who's from Britain, and she says, "Don't be pound foolish, dollar. What does she say? Pound foolish and penny wise and pound foolish." That's what she says. Don't be penny wise and pound foolish. And she says it in her accent. But we grew up, penny wise and dollar foolish, right? So you save a few pennies and it costs you so much and you'll never even know.
All
So
right.
get an accountant or have a professional look over your things. I'm not an accountant. Don't call me for this, but I've got many good ones in my life that look after me. But spend a little money and get it right. You'll probably get that back and way more because they know what to do and they know how your tax return should look. So that's one thing. Another thing that you can do is consider updating or upgrading or beginning your estate planning. And that's when we talked a little bit about wills and trusts, powers of attorney, things like that. All the money that the government has spent in the last couple of years to try to help us through the pandemic and recover businesses. And now they're talking infrastructure costs, like lots and lots of money. That's got to come from somewhere. And it comes from taxes. And so they are adding taxes. They're changing the rules. So people will pay more tax. And it happens in several ways. It doesn't always happen on your tax return. There are many ways that taxes happen. You really want to look at what you can do to avoid some of those, mitigate some of those, but make sure that you educate yourself on some of them that will impact you. The greatest impact that we're seeing right now is what they've done with the estate tax. So an estate tax is what you pay after you're gone, right? So it comes out of what you leave your family. And they just kind of take the tax. They just take, if you're going to give them this much, now you give them this much, and Sam takes the rest. That Uncle Sam we talked about. So that is definitely increasing. And the way they do it, they structure the estate tax is you have a threshold that you have to meet before the tax is due. But we're talking 40% tax. So when you meet that threshold, every dollar over that amount is taxed. And so the way they don't really increase that amount, although they may, the percentage you pay, but they decrease the threshold that you have to meet. So if it was, 10 million before, it might be 1 million overnight. And now that 9 million is taxed at 40% rate or whatever the new rate would be. So something to think about. It's coming. Just if you haven't thought about that before, if it hasn't been on the radar, something to consider getting on your list to learn about. And that's something that is covered, by the way, in the Money, Truth, and Life Online Mastery Program. You can learn the basics there.
Excellent. And we are at the end of the show, and you know what happens at the end of the show, right?
It is time for the challenge. Are you ready for the challenge, Carlos?
I am ready. I've got pen. I've got my paper. I'm ready to go.
Okay. So think about pen and paper, right? Here's my pen. Think about the things that we went over this year in review. We talked about several different subjects, different angles. What I'd really like you to do is consider one area of your finance, whether it's the legacy and legal, whether it's insurances, maybe your retirement or investments, maybe cash flows and cash reserves, whatever the area is, taxation, find that one area that you can make a lot of gains in, or make a lot of improvement in, and write it down. Let's say it's taxation, right? So the second thing is, what do I need to do about it? What's the gap? We're going through the ABCDEs, right? What's the gap? What's missing? What could I do to optimize? I could pay less tax on maybe the mortgage insurance on my tax return. Maybe I could restructure my business. Maybe I could get some more expenses that I can write off against, the projects that I'm doing. What could I do? Maybe hire a CPA if you haven't, and make sure that you're getting all the credits that you should and all the deductions that you should. So whatever it is, the second thing, write down what you can do, maybe a short list of things that will optimize your financial planning for this year. And the third thing is to implement. So what do I have to do to execute this idea? Do I need to call somebody? Do I need to gather some information? Do I need to talk to payroll? What is it that I need to do? Maybe dust some policy off, in the back of the file cabinet and see, what do I really have? Is it the right thing? So those are your things. Identify an area of finance, make a short list of things that you could do to improve your situation. And then third, do it, right? Nike, just do it. That's your challenge.
All right, folks, you've heard the challenge, the Money Truth Challenge. Do it. Just get out there and do it. Let us share with us some outcomes, and we would love to hear from you as well, too. And if you have any questions for the show, any specific questions for Judy, please send us a message, and we'd love to address that on future shows as well, too. Well, we come to the end of the show, folks. We are here every Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock. So if you're not following Judy, please do so at judykopenbarger.com. We covered what's available on her website, a lot of great free resources that is just all it's going to cost you is your time. You're going to learn a lot more and avoid a lot of headaches too. Judy, any last words?
No, just make it a great week. Do something.
All right. Until next time, we'll see you at Money Truth Moments. Thank you.